So there's a narrative that has taken hold and is very widespread, that we have an irresistible surge of populism, and it's really the last few years, say the last 4 or 5 years, and it's driven by economic grievances and economic insecurity. And I think while there are clearly things happening in the political space in advanced economies and democracies, this narrative is largely misleading and has to be questioned. And of course, there shouldn't be complacency about what's happening politically, but things are not that simple. So let me say 3 things. One is, it's not all about the economy. Actually, it's very difficult to disentangle economic from other factors, such as identity, status insecurity, things that, for example, in the US are associated with racism, male insecurity in a society that is advancing gender issues and gender equality and recognition of gays and lesbians and other trends. And also the loss of status of the US as a nation, with the rise of China, the loss of the obvious #1 spot that the US has enjoyed in living memory. So, and you can also look at similar issues in the UK with the rise of multicultural cosmopolitan London and the way it's felt by the rest of the countries, specifically the rest of England. Some Central and Eastern European countries where there is a feeling of demographic collapse and the threat to the community from just a shrinking population and immigration. So you have different variations in different countries. Lots of it is about immigration, but far from all is about immigration. These identity issues, status issues are proved by the most numbers-driven political science research to be at least as prominent as economic issues centered on inequality or loss of manufacturing jobs, or the things that are very present in the reference narrative. The second thing I will say is we tend to idealize the past, and there is a certain distortion in our memories when we talk about this recent surge of populism, as if the entire history of Western Europe's post-war period was one of orderly politics. I'm not talking about Central and Eastern Europe here, but in Western Europe we had political violence in the 1970s. People forget the political assassinations in Germany, in Italy, also in France, in other places. The Basque separatism, the time of troubles in Northern Ireland. Actually, our politics, even after the recent shocks, are much more peaceful than in that era, and this is living memory. So we shouldn't think, in the 70s or 80s, there were hardline nationalist and very hardline communist parties in Western European politics in many member states of the European Union. So this idea that everything was moderate and centrist before the recent years is just wrong. It's inaccurate. It's a false memory. The third thing I think, and I'll stop there, is to try to think why we have those misleading narratives. Why is it that we're not looking at the past or the present in a straight way? And I think this has lots to do with the fact that there were twin shocks in 2016, the Brexit vote and the election of Donald Trump, which happened exactly at the core of the 2 countries, the UK and the US, which provide, in a way, the analytical infrastructure for the rest of the world. I mean, a lot of our understanding of world affairs is processed in London and in New York, in the media, of course, but also in a broader analytical community of expert analysts, consultancies, advisory firms, and of course the entire media cluster. And these communities have received a huge shock, psychological shock, at the core of their own communities in 2016 with Brexit and Trump. And I think that distorts the global picture, even when we think about other parts of the world, say continental Western Europe or Central and Eastern Europe, where the shocks have been less dramatic in recent years. So that, again, should not lead to complacency. It should not lead to ignoring recent political trends, but I think placing them in a local historical context is always indispensable.